Hello and welcome to Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Chester. You know what we like to do on the show. We want to enlighten, inspire, and empower you to become your best self. The tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And today we want to get you fired up about Courtship Journal and Keepsake. It's a book written by my guest today, Joyce Richardson. So let me tell you a little bit more about Joyce. Joyce graduated with honors from Concordia Lutheran College, Austin, and holds a BA in elementary education and a BA in church music. Joyce and her husband, Kyle, have been married for 25 years and have two daughters, one homeschool graduate who moved on to college and one homeschool high schooler. Now, Joyce and her family live in the Houston, Texas area, where they are active in their church. Joyce is a dedicated vocalist and music lover. She serves as the vocal director for a local Christian community theater. She enjoys paper crafting, stamping, and creating handmade cards and home decor. Joyce has authored one book entitled Courtship Journal and Keepsake, which guides couples looking for a life mate through a myriad of discussion topics as they get to know one another, forming a habit of consistent, transparent communication and a God-centered relationship. So I am excited to be able to bring her on, because who doesn't want to have the best relationship that they could possibly have? So go on, get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee, get your tea. We are about to get started. Hello, Joyce. How are you? Thank you so much for joining me today.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
I love the fact that you have a book that is helping couples be their best self. I adore that. I have a workbook that talks about the same thing, because we really and truly do need to, if we have information to share, help people be their best. So thanks for doing that. So I have to ask, where did you get the idea for Courtship Journal and Keepsake?
Well, it was totally an inspiration from the Lord. The year I first had the idea, we had a niece who'd just begun courting with a young man prior to Christmas, and so I thought, wow, it'd be really fun to find this courtship journal, because she has a love for journaling, and I thought I would just kind of breeze into the local Christian bookstore and find something and, pull it off the shelf and go take it to the register and purchase it. But that was not the case. I couldn't find anything like what I was envisioning for her, so I just bought a blank journal and went home and started to document on my computer and typed and printed and cut and pasted all of these little questions on pieces of paper into the blank journal. And so during that process, I had to change the blade on my paper trimmer and run to the store for more adhesive refills for my tape runner. But it was a really big hit with her. And so that's just what really started it all.
Mm-hmm. Now, I love the fact that when I read your bio, you do some things that I think are just such wonderful things, and that's the paper crafting, the stamping, and creating handmade cards. That is such a wonderful personal way of sharing your thoughts and your hopes for someone else. And what a great thing when we're talking about courtship and documenting kind of like what you're going through and preparing for the big day of being married. What a wonderful way to be able to journal that and to be able to look back at those moments and share. It's awesome that you do that. Now, what are some suggestions that you make in your courtship journal?
The suggestions for using it are a little bit, there are a whole bunch of them. There are, first one, write the date next to each of the questions as you discuss them. You might want to revisit them. It could be beneficial to know when you first spoke about them and just kind of remember what was happening in your life at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first thing. And then secondly, there are 12 favorite date pages in the journal. So you can fill those out as often as you want, perhaps one a month, or just really choose the most special favored ones. That could be every 6 weeks, or, one week in the very next week. It just totally depends on how each couple wants to complete those pages.
Mm-hmm.
Third, then we have just go in with the realization that not every courtship journey culminates in marriage.
Mm-hmm.
That's just one of the facts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we constantly
people do break up, yeah.
yes, they do. They do. And you want to know that before you get too far into the relationship if it's just not going to work for the long term.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and part of that is constantly seeking God and His will for your lives.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just a huge part.
Mm-hmm. I'm so sorry for cutting you up there. Now, for someone who is unfamiliar with the term courtship, now, personally, having grown up in a certain denomination of church, courtship is something that we've talked about, and you're familiar with the word. But perhaps there's someone who's either new to the faith or their denomination doesn't use the terminology. What is courtship?
To me, courtship is a commitment that goes deeper than dating. It says, you're a person I really want to get to know on a much deeper level, and I commit to learning about you and the relationship as it is right now to see if it can grow into something further and eventually into a marriage relationship for a lifetime.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So someone may be saying, well, you know what? We've never used the word courtship. We've used the words or phrases, we've been together, we've been dating, we're boyfriend and girlfriend, we're not fiancé, so we're not that far, but we've been together for 2 years or for 4 years. Should those people consider themselves in the courtship stage? Or how do you know once you've crossed over from, I think I like this person, into we're officially courting?
Right. Well, one definition of courtship is the wooing of one person by another. So, and wooing is to think ahead and as if you're looking for a life mate. So once you kind of have figured out, well, there could be something more here, or this isn't going to go as far as I initially thought it would, that sort of thing. But once you kind of pass over that threshold and think, we could really have a future and work for the Lord together in this life, and we just have the same goals or similar goals, same kind of commitment to marriage and family, and this could really go someplace. That's, I think, when you can cross over that into the courtship realm at that point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, with your journal, I love how you say put the date on, put the date down when you ask certain questions and when you get to certain portions of the book. Should the couples work through your journal and keepsake in page order? Is it by subject? How should they utilize what you've shared with them?
Well, the short answer is no, you do not have to work through it in page order.
Okay.
There are all kinds of questions in there. Some of them go pretty deep. Some of them are on a bit of a silly side, like, do you prefer crunchy chewies or soft crunchy cookies or soft chewy cookies? Which do you prefer?
That's important.
It is.
That is an important. I'm not joking. That is a serious question. I'm soft veg. He's hard and crunchy. That could cause an argument one day.
Yes, so that's the way we are. Yeah. And so it's just finding out those little bitty things that kind of make a person tick. And part of the fun of being able to use the journal is if you get the soft cover edition, you can take it to the office supply store and have them cut the binding off and spiral bind it so that it can lay flat and you can write in it. It'd be easier to like put small mementos from maybe a movie ticket or a concert or just whatever. Just to kind of use it that way, make a little scrapbook, and wouldn't that be fun to show children, future children someday? And but just going back to do you have to work through in page order? No, you don't. But you might want to wait to go into some of the really deeper questions,
right?
Until you're a little further in the relationship. You might not want to discuss the most traumatic experiences you've had on the first week, right?
So true, so true. Yeah. I love that. Now, when people when you were formulating the questions that you wanted to add to the journal, because someone might be saying, well, I hear what you're saying, but I still want to know kind of like what types of questions are you asking? So my question for you is that when you were formulating the questions, did you have a particular goal in mind when you were formulating those questions? Was it life experience? How did you come about including the questions that you did?
Much of it is life experience, just being married for a quarter of a century now. Wow, that just sounds really odd to say out loud, but it has been. We're on our 26th year now, and life experience has a lot to do with it. But on top of that, the goal of the journal, I think, truly is for couples to discuss everything and form that habit of communication. Just the one-on-one communication that we all need, right? So that's the main thing. The questions cover everything from finances and budgets to how you communicate, how you handle disagreements, how are you going to be involved in ministry, what were your childhoods like, how do you spend the holidays, and what traditions do you have? What about laundry? Do you separate the colors from the whites beforehand to make it easier when you pick up the basket? Or just all kinds of things like that. Who's going to prepare yearly taxes? Who's going to collect all that information? What's your ideal thermostat setting? And how are you going to care for aging parents when it comes to that?
Man, those are all such great questions, and let me tell you, listeners, it sounds really simple, like, oh yeah, I never thought about that. Exactly. And that's why it's included in the journal, because I tell you, some of the questions, you're going to have an answer today, but you may have a different answer. When I say tomorrow, I mean maybe 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and you need to be able to grow. You have some really, really great questions in there, Joyce. Thanks for being so mindful and thoughtful, and for, in your own way, helping each and every one of these budding marriages or potential couples to really be their best selves in asking the questions that you do. Like you said, there's nothing like life experience, I tell you. Now, it's almost time for us to go to break, but I want to make sure that everyone knows where to get a copy of your book. So if you can, please, can you remind everyone, what is the title of your book? Where can we get a copy? And how can we follow you online?
Okay, the title is Courtship Journal and Keepsake. You can order it from wherever your personal preference is, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever. The website address is courtshipjournalandkeepsake.com.
All righty, listeners, now you know where you can get a copy of the book. We'll be back right after this. And we are back Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Chester. My guest today is Joyce Richardson, and we are talking about her book, Courtship Journal and Keepsake. Now, I love anybody that wants to help couples get ready for marriage. Marriage is all the awesome things that you think it can be. It is some of the bad things that you might have heard about. So why not be prepared for the ups and downs so that you can be your best together? And that's what she's helping you do, and I think that that's pretty awesome. Now, Joyce, how will using the Courtship Journal and Keepsake help couples who do decide, you know what, let's go to the next step and let's get married?
Great question. First, these couples will have a huge head start when they begin premarital counseling. I purposely did not look at any premarital counseling material or books while I was working on the questions for the journal because I wanted it to be different from those books. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there are some similar topics covered in each, but they'll be in a different format. And it's just, one of those things that, like I said earlier, just getting in the habit of communicating and talking about everything. It seems that so much of life is lived in social media these days, and using the journal is just a way to take a break from that. Right. It might perhaps gently bring a bit of a slower pace and introspection to each couple who uses it. They can, of course, still post their pictures and thoughts on whichever platform they prefer to use, but it will just give them the opportunity to talk face-to-face and focus on each other without sometimes the distractions and the exhaustion that constantly being connected and posting all of those things and keeping up with it can bring. Just that, not just the communication that we want everybody to have, but just that let's take a break and let's just be together. Yeah. In a moment. Yeah.
I don't think people understand the importance of the just being together. It tends to be a focus on, well, what are we going to do when we're together? It's you understand what I mean? Like, let's go on a picnic, or we need to go to the park, or we have to go to a play or hear music, as opposed to just being able to be comfortable in each other's presence. That in itself is really important. I'm glad that you mentioned that.
Yes. Sometimes it's the silence that the togetherness in the silence that can mean so much.
Yeah. It really and truly can, and I think so many times couples are almost lost, confused, baffled by the silence. For some, it's as though the silence is awkward for them. They don't know how to handle it, and they feel like there needs to be something constantly going on or being said. And that they haven't learned how to just appreciate that quiet time. I think you're really hitting the nail on the head for someone who's listening, going, yes, that's what we're missing, just being able to be okay in those quiet times. Now, for the couple who is interested in picking up your book, and they're saying, Joyce, I'm loving what I'm hearing. I'm going to order my copy right now. For you, what is the ultimate goal for anyone who wants to utilize this resource?
Okay, so in addition to fostering a habit of talking and communicating about everything, and that's just part of realizing that unmet expectations that haven't been discussed are usually the things that cause issues. Okay, the ultimate goal of using the Courtship Journal and Keepsake is to discern if this person is God's plan for your lifelong mate, and to help establish a covenant marriage relationship that will honor and please the Lord. That truly is the ultimate goal. Just figuring that out.
Mm-hmm. I like that answer. I like that. Now, if someone wanted to know a little bit more about the book, how can someone find out more about the book? Where, perhaps someone is driving right now and they're not able to really kind of pull over and listen as much as they would like. How can they find out more about the book itself?
Okay, super. I have a website titled courtshipjournalandkeepsake.com. Just all the words strung together, no dashes, no underscores, just courtshipjournalandkeepsake.com. Everybody can go visit there. I've got an archive page with tons of questions that are not included in the book. I've just kind of posted and added them to this archive. And there's also a little bit more information about me. I've got some other pages which are really fun. One of them is where I share some favorite family recipes. So if you're in the mood to try something new for dinner or on the weekend, check that out. They're really fun, and of course we enjoy every one of them. They're all yummy. And then there's a blog that I try to keep up with. I don't always have time to spend writing on the blog, but usually it's just a snapshot of maybe what's happening in our lives at the time, or something to say, hey, I read this great article or heard this whatever over here, so why don't you go check that out if you want, that sort of thing. But I do try to definitely update the homepage every week with a new question of the week.
Awesome. I like that. Something that gets you going. What a nice way to make progress, but also at the same time there's no pressure, like the heavy pressure that sometimes people feel, I don't know if I want to do a workbook, I don't know if I want to do a journal, that's too much. But a question a week is a really cool way to kind of ease into that. Smart.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
like it.
Yeah.
Now, do you recommend that the couples who are interested and they're going, this is exactly what we need, should they get 2 copies, one for him and her, or is the 1 copy okay?
Well, this is totally up to each couple. If they want to write down all their answers when they're together as they've been discussing things, they can do that. Just have 1 copy. If they prefer to read ahead and write down thoughts individually and then write down some more while they're together, then they might want 2. But if like I said, it just depends on the couple. There are other options as far as whether they want to just start a document on their computers, that sort of thing. To if they don't like the actual physical act of writing letters on pages or those sorts of things, they could start a document on their computer and work it that way.
I love it. I love it. Now, the next set of questions that I have for you are not dealing with your book, but we have so many aspiring authors that are out there. So I like to ask the questions of just your process of how you write and what works best for you. And someone else may be going, yes, that's me too. I'm so glad she said that. So when it comes to your writing time, have you found that there is a particular time of day where it seems to just flow for you? Like, are you a morning, an afternoon, an evening type person? Does it matter?
I am a morning person. I do my best work in the morning. If I can get up early and just get going on my day, that makes a huge difference for me. I kind of tend to have that afternoon lull or crater a little bit most days. But so, yes, mornings definitely, for me, are the best. Now, my 2 daughters would say the complete opposite. They're both night owls at this point, and they don't mind staying up late, but they don't like to get up really early either. So, right. So for me, it's in the morning. That's when I prefer to really get my work done. I start checking things off my list, and I can just feel like I'm accomplishing more when I get an early start.
You really do feel like you've accomplished something for the day, because it's like, man, it's only 1:00 and look at everything that I've done. So yeah, I can understand that.
It's fun to check things off the list.
It is. It really and truly is. And one of the things that I started doing, and this was many, many years ago, was, people used to say, make your to-do list. And I kind of changed the wording, and I don't have a to-do list. I have an to-accomplish list. And for me, just changing that word made the difference of looking at, this is what I will accomplish today. And being very aware of the time and what time you start out. So I like how you're saying, you start out early in the morning, you can look back and go, look at all the things I've accomplished, which just motivates you for the next time, for the next morning, or for the next thing that you need to do. So it really and truly does make a difference. I love that.
Very true. I like that, too. I might have to borrow that from you.
Of course. I mean, because it really and truly, it changed, how I thought about it. Because so many people were saying, well, I'm a member of the 5 a.m. club or the 6 a.m. club, like what time you get up and get started. But that I found was, in conversation, could be quite intimidating for people. The time of day, simply stating the time of day. 5 a.m., oh my gosh, it's still dark outside. That's crazy. But yet, if I said, well, what time do you usually wake up? Oh, I wake up around 5:30. It's like, okay. So you're like a part of the 5:30, 6 a.m. club. But saying that, like, totally blew their mind, So it was, if we could change the wording of what we do, then we can change how we feel about what we do. And what made me think about it was the way that you said, you like getting up in the morning because it allows you to get things done and accomplish stuff. And it's like, awesome. Get up at the time that's best for you with that natural rhythm, and you can look back over your day and go, look at all that I've done. And hey, guys, it works. She has a published book. So the advice, it works. Get up and get it done. I love it. I love it. Now, when you finished your writing, like, you've now accomplished what you set out to do. You wanted to have a book. It's been published, and it's out there. How did you feel in the moment that you had your tangible book, a copy of your book, in your hands, and it's perfect? It's the way that it's supposed to be. Once we go through all the proofing and all that kind of stuff, it is now available for sale. How did you feel in that moment?
I think it was relief. Truly. It's like you've gone through this whole process, and it is definitely a process. I'm sure you know. It's and you reach the end, and it's like, wow, okay, I can breathe now.
Right.
just kind of go, okay, this is it. Thank you, Lord. It's just some relief and lots of gratitude.
Absolutely. Because people think that you're gonna, that it makes you feel like prideful, or like you're so proud of yourself, kind of thing. And I tell people, it's like, yeah, I mean, a little, but you really and truly, you nailed it. You're more so like, oh, thank God, this part is all, now we can enjoy, the rest of it and get on with it. But being an author is an ever-moving process, and there's always something that we're doing regarding our book. Well, Joyce, let me tell you, I have really enjoyed talking to you today, and I'm so glad that you have written this book, because I think that the times that we're living in, we need to encourage our young people to not only be their best, but to have the best marriages that they possibly can and to get back in that feeling of that oneness, that togetherness that the Lord has planned for all of us. So thank you so much for being on Daily Spark with Dr. Angela today.
Thank you.
And listeners, I am so glad that you joined us for this episode. I hope that you have been inspired, you've been enlightened, and you have been empowered to be your best self. And as always, may God's face shine upon you. May you receive His grace and His mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, be blessed in the Lord. Bye-bye.